The Zelda series is usually about exploration in bright, fantastical worlds, riding across the vast open Hyrule field, sailing the endless waters of the Great Sea, or soaring high above the clouds on a loft wing. But there's another side to Zelda. Some games have things that are far more sinister, dark things hidden in the deepest corners of their world. It's a good thing Link has the Triforce of Courage, because if saving Hyrule fell to me, I'd bail on the whole thing at the first sight of a Skulltula and let Hyrule fend for itself. No way I'm going near that. But oversized spiders aren't as creepy as Zelda gets. Not by half. Today, in the spirit of Halloween, I'll run you through my personal top 10 picks for the darkest things found in the Zelda games, across all of the games in the series in no particular order. I'm actually going to make this a two-part Halloween special. I'll run over this top 10 in this video, but then on Wednesday, Halloween, I'll look at a really creepy Zelda item in detail, with a little theory about it too. So subscribe if you don't want to miss the next part. But today, my top 10 scariest or darkest things in Zelda games. Let's get into it. Number 10. The Skulltula House. Okay, I lied at the start of the video. Skulltulas are pretty damn creepy. Aggressive skull-shaped spiders that lurk in the deepest, darkest dungeons in Hyrule that range from the size of a dinner plate all the way up to the size of a small horse. No thanks. But there's something far scarier than a regular Skulltula in Ocarina of Time, the Skulltula House. In KAKARIKO village in Ocarina of Time, a wealthy family lived in a large old house, 5 children and their father. We don't know exactly what caused it, but they were cursed due to their greed by a spider's curse. This caused them to mutate into terrifying half-spider, half-human hybrids. Not even the cool type either. A family of regular Hylians horrifically spliced with Skulltulas, their faces twisted into the skull-shaped bone, their arms helplessly hanging at their sides amongst stick-thin spider legs, dangling silently in the broken ruin of their family home. You can break the curse in the game by collecting gold Skulltula tokens across the world, restoring the family to their human forms. But as we learn from the old man in the village, the story of the family's curse has become almost folklore around Hyrule, meaning there's a good chance they were cursed for a very long time before the hero saved them, trapped in twisted arachnoid bodies, hanging from threads in the darkness. Ocarina of Time alongside Super Mario 64 is the game I have the most memories from as a really young kid, and man did the Skulltula family creep me out. I thought they were horrific enemies at first rather than cursed people, so I'd go up and attack them, causing them to scream in pain and attack me back. Needless to say, I never went back there. The spider's curse also appears in Majora's Mask, but it's just the Terminian equivalent of the father who's sort of fused with the Mask of Truth, which is still creepy, but nowhere near as bad as the KAKARIKO family. You've probably guessed from the thumbnail and the theme of the video, but this won't be the last time I talk about Ocarina of Time's KAKARIKO village. We're just getting started. Number 9. The Cursed Bokoblins. The Cursed Bokoblins are actually something that really creeped me out in Skyward Sword, yet hardly anyone talks about them. The Ancient Cistern is one of the most awesome dungeons in any Zelda game, a calming Eastern themed water temple at first glance, but it's hiding a dark underworld. Beneath the main temple there's a cursed abyss, lakes of corrupted, toxic water, dark ruins hidden in an ominous mist. Oh, and zombies. Loads of zombies. Yeah, Cursed Bokoblins are creepy. Fee describes them as reanimating out of pure hatred for the world, and you can see by their decaying, battered bodies that they've been mortally wounded and still refuse to give up life. Normal Bokoblins are of course evil, and you don't think twice about smacking them up with a Master Sword, but they're still sentient and kind of human-like. There's something depressing and sinister about seeing them in this state, rotting in a hellish underworld and fueled by pure, undying malice. To make things worse, there's a part of the dungeon where you have to climb up a thread, climbing out of hell with cursed bokoblins climbing beneath you, grasping at your legs to pull you back down into their corrupted hellscape. Terrifying. This is actually one of the coolest dungeons ever, and this bit in particular is inspired by The Spider's Thread, a story by Ryunosuke Akutagawa. In this story, Buddha sees a thief, Kandata, suffering in hell for his crimes. Though Buddha decides to save Kandata as he spared the life of a spider. So Buddha sends a spider down into hell, and Kandata begins to climb up its threads to paradise above, but notices other sinners climbing the thread below him. He shouts for them to stop as the thread will snap if too many climb, yet this moment of selfishness causes the thread to break and he falls back down to hell. It's an awesome moment inspired by Japanese folklore, but it doesn't make it any less creepy. Number 8. The Silent Trials. The Silent Trials. You know, those things that are actually quite serene for the most part. You play the goddess's song on a marker which takes you to the Silent Realm, a sacred alternate reality. In this realm, you must pass tests placed before you by the goddesses. Only Link's spirit is transported to this realm, meaning you take no equipment and no weaponry, and the goal is to collect 15 sacred tears. Seems quite easy and quite peaceful, right? Wrong. If you're spotted by a watcher, fall into water, or go 90 seconds without picking up a tear, the Guardians awaken. Nope, not the Sheikah Guardians, though they're just as scary. Ever wondered why Link's trousers are brown in Skyward Sword? This is why. The Guardians will hunt you down, running towards you with giant swords drawn until you collect another tear. And all the while this music's playing. That's the stuff of nightmares. Number 7. GROG'S Fate. Grog is a character in Ocarina of Time that at first seems pretty uninteresting, if a bit weird. He can be found in KAKARIKO village at night as Child Link sat under the tree in the centre of the village. I've always thought KAKARIKO at night was a bit eerie, without the calming music under the shadow of the ever-moving windmill. Grog is fed up of life, he finds his mother and father disgusting, and he thinks Link must be too. If you talk to him with a mask on, however, he says he believes he is a genuinely good person at heart. Grog plays a part in the Big Goron Sword trading side quest, when Link receives Kojiro, the blue cuckoo that was once Grog's pet. It's revealed that it hasn't crowed at all since Grog left though. It turns out that Grog left KAKARIKO village for the Lost Woods, presumably because of how unhappy he was in his hometown. When Link finds him sitting under a tree in the woods, he's surprised by Kojiro's crowing and claims that only nice guys can tame it, which Link has done, suggesting he believes both him and Link are nice. He gives you an odd mushroom which you need to deliver to Granny in the KAKARIKO potion shop, which he uses to make an odd potion for Grog. Weirdly though, she'll mention that the potion will have no effect on a monster. Returning to the Lost Woods, you'll find Grog nowhere to be seen, with Fado standing where he used to be. Fado explains what happened. He became lost in the woods and became a Stalfos, which is the fate that awaits adults who can't find their way out. Stalfos are powerful skeletal warriors, found in particular in the Forest Temple. They were wayward travellers who became lost in the woods, and the magic of the forest transformed them into mindless soldiers, as opposed to children who become lost in the woods who become the mischievous Skull Kids. Grog doesn't appear later in the end credits at Lon Lon Ranch, even though most minor characters do, suggesting that he really did lose his way in the Lost Woods and become a Stalfos, wandering the forest in a skeletal form, alone for the rest of his days. Grog was someone who was unhappy in his hometown, like many of us are, someone who felt the need to up and leave to spend time alone. However, he wandered too far, into the magical Lost Woods, where he became disoriented and never found his way out again. It's cruelly ironic how, in the end, Grog became something far more disgusting than the family he despised. Number 6. MORPHEEL. Moving on to one of my personal big fears, deep open water. Because of this, the MORPHEEL boss fight in Twilight Princess is easily the boss that scares me the most in Zelda. It's the boss of the Lakebed Temple, and after you've fought your way through the dungeon, you enter what seems to be a small pool in the centre of a tiny room. But it turns out this isn't a small pool at all. It's the very top of a colossal underwater chamber, stretching out a huge distance into all directions. You need to don the iron boots and sink past some gigantic stone pillars to the very bottom of the room where MORPHEEL lurks. At first it appears to be a sarlacc pit-like mouth in the sand, which is pretty creepy, but for the boss's second phase, the entire monster heaves itself out of the ground, revealing it to be a gargantuan eel. Major Super Mario 64 flashbacks here. There's something about a creature that big in open water that just really gets under my skin, especially one that wants to kill you. Massive undead dragons or arachnids are creepy, but a colossal sea monster as a Zelda boss just terrifies me. Number 5. Death Sword. Another Twilight Princess boss makes the list, Death Sword. Apart from being named like some edgy kid's Xbox Live gamertag, Death Sword is easily one of the scariest Zelda bosses ever. When you enter Death Sword's boss room, you see nothing but a gigantic sword in the ground, bound down tightly by ropes. The ropes are actually covered in ofuda, talismans used in Japanese religion for protection from danger. What sword not only has to be locked away in a sealed room deep within an ancient execution site, but also bound tightly to the floor with ropes adorned with protective talismans? Death Sword does. The sword was possessed by an evil spirit, one that took the form of a Reaper-like ghost. It's only visible with the acute senses of Link's wolf form until attacked, when Link can damage it severely with the might of his bow. This boss is so creepy mainly because of its design. I mean, just look at it. It's a harrowing take on the Grim Reaper, and the fact that it's only visible for half the fight makes it even scarier. What else is lurking in the darkness that only animals can see? It's so creepy too that whoever sealed it here knew how dangerous it was, and so trapped it in its sword, bound tightly with seals. What did it do before the game to be sealed away like this, before the hero finally destroyed the spirit? Number 4. REDEADS. Here's one you were definitely expecting from a scariest thing in Zelda list, and with good reason. REDEADS are terrifying, no question about it. Lurking in tombs, dungeons, ruins and other dark places, the REDEADS are tall, zombie-like enemies that slowly shuffle around until they notice Link when they let out a horrifying, paralysing scream to stun their prey. I don't think I need to say anything else about the REDEADS. Wooden masks, tall, grey, gaunt frames, screams in the darkness. Truly terrifying. Number 3. Twilight. The Twilight from Twilight Princess is still one of the eeriest areas in any Zelda game in my opinion. There's something off about seeing the normally bright and happy areas cast into this lonely and quiet darkness. The people who lived there shivering in the cold, terrified and confused. Even Hylian soldiers, the valiant protectors of the kingdom, cower in fear in the Twilight, completely out of their depth, alone and disoriented. The music doesn't help either, a constant alien noise reminding us that things aren't as they should be. The Twilight is one of the most unsettling things about the game, an eerie, isolated alternate reality full of bizarre, otherworldly enemies. Number 2. Kakariko Village. Finally, here's the one you all expected to be on this list, Kakariko Village from Ocarina of Time. It features some of the most genuinely terrifying areas in the Zelda series, from the bottom of the well to the graveyard and the Shadow Temple. Both the bottom of the well and the Shadow Temple share the same theme, that being a horrific torture chamber, complete with racks, chains and blood staining the walls and floors, in a game that's rated E for everyone. Both of these areas are full of creepy enemies like Gibdos, REDEADS, Floormasters, Skulltulas, and of course, the pinnacle of sheer terror for any 10-year-old kid, Dead Hand. What the hell were Nintendo thinking putting this thing in the game? I hate fighting it, even now. It's just so... ugh. Look at it, it's covered in blood in a room full of actual human skulls, grabbing at you with countless long, gangly arms that claw their way from the ground. No thank you. Hyrule's pretty much half saved by this point. I think that's the furthest we're going to get. To make it worse, you have to fight this horror twice. Once in the bottom of the well and once in the Shadow Temple. They obviously thought this horrific nightmare made flesh was so great we'd enjoy fighting it twice. Fuck no, get it away from me. But jokes aside, these are some of the coolest areas in Zelda. I love darker elements in the games. Conquering these dungeons makes you feel like even more of a hero. And Dead Hand, because of being the complete nightmare fuel that it is one of the most awesome and intimidating mini-bosses in the whole series. Number 1. The DEKU Butler's Son. Majora's Mask is a very creepy game. It's full of some of the weirdest, most unnerving characters the Zelda series has ever seen, all while the moon itself is hurtling towards Earth, wearing that same menacing grimace. But for me, nothing in the game is more sinister than the fate of the DEKU Butler's son. A loyal servant of the DEKU King, the butler's life is racked with worry and sorrow for his son, who left home for seemingly no reason. He says he used to race with his son, yet now simply wishes that his child write him even a letter, just to let him know that he's okay. But at the very end of the game's end credits, the music fades out into the game's ominous opening theme, where we see the DEKU Butler mourning over a tree, seemingly weeping in front of the tunnel near Clock Tower. This tree can be seen at the start of the game. Tattle mentions that Link's DEKU form looks similar to the tree and that it looks dark and gloomy, almost like it could start crying. The game's hinting at the sinister truth, and Hyrule Historia confirms it. The Skull Kid tore the DEKU Butler's son's soul from his body, and with it cursed Link into the form of the DEKU Scrub. All of the other transformation masks in the game, with the exception of the Fierce Deities mask, contain the souls of their deceased owners, and so too does the DEKU mask. So the DEKU Butler's son, the beloved child who raced with his dad, met his demise at the hands of Majora and the Skull Kid, having his soul ripped out, leaving an empty husk in its place. The fate of the DEKU Butler's son is one of the darkest things in any Zelda game, and it makes it even worse having to watch the butler himself mourn the loss of his child when he discovers his corpse, empty and soulless, alone in the woods. So there are my top 10 picks for the scariest or darkest things in Zelda games. But like I said, on Halloween night I've got another video for you talking in more detail about what I think is one of the darkest and most interesting things in Zelda that doesn't get talked about too much. So this coming Wednesday, Halloween, I'll upload the second part of my 2-part Halloween special. Thanks for watching this video. What do you think are the darkest and scariest things in Zelda games? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, please leave a like or subscribe for more Zelda content. Cheers guys, and I'll see you next time.